So tonight, take a go. Make it a lovely go, either for yourself or for another. Any time that you exercise your imagination lovingly on behalf of another, you're mediating God to that other. So, bring a friend before your mind's eye. Represent him to yourself as the man or the woman that you would like them to be. And don't tell them, ask for no praise, just assume that they're talking to you and telling you the most marvelous news about themselves. And you congratulate them on that good news. And go your own way. Believe in the reality of that imaginal act. It may happen tomorrow. It may happen the day after, or a week later, or a month later. It has its own appointed hour, and it is ripening, and it's going to flower. So don't be concerned. Leave it alone, and it will come to pass. So this is what I mean by feeling is the secret. I catch the mood, the feeling that would be mine if I were what I want to be. I don't have to touch something, I can if I want to, but it's the mood I'm speaking of. What would the feeling be like if she were well, if she were this? And then you catch it, just as though it is true. You always go to the end, and the end is where you begin. We're always imagining ahead of our evidence. So go to the end and feel the end. And then dwell in that end, even though reason denies it and your senses deny it. You turn your back upon the doubters. That is your senses and what reason dictates. That's the hell or the devil or Satan in the world. That's the doubter. So you turn your back upon it. And then you walk as though things were as you want them to be. And living in that assumption, it slowly hardens into fact. Even though at the moment of the assumption it was denied by reason, an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So you learn to assume and learn to persist in the assumption, and it will come to pass.
That's your higher self, the living spirit within you, that was never born, will never die. Water wets it not, fire burns it not, wind blows it not away. It's eternal. It is the very life principle in you, through you, and all around you. The second step is to commune regularly with this infinite presence and power, and have a vision, realizing you go where your vision is. And your vision is what you're mentally looking at, what you're giving attention to, what you're thinking quietly, silently, and feelingly at this moment. That's where you're going. And that's what's going to happen to you. Let your vision be on abundance, right action, inspiration, and divine guidance. And you will become like the perennial mountain of snow, which when melted by the heat of the sun, flows downward like a river of life, giving nourishment and sustenance to the valleys. What difference does it make if you have floundered and failed many times, now that you know the divine presence indwells you, and that the infinite intelligence and infinite power and the infinite life principle is the God presence within you? You know it responds to you, it wants you to be happy. Stir up that divine gift within you. Wake up the sleeping giant within you. Trust that creative intelligence within you, more so even than you ever trusted your human father or mother. When the thought comes to you, I cannot do this, affirm. But the divine presence can. It's infinite presence. It's the infinite power. There's nothing to oppose it or challenge it. It is almighty. If the thought comes, look at all the difficulties and obstructions, realize and know, and say boldly to yourself, infinite intelligence and infinite power knows no obstructions, delays, or impediments. Find an affirmation which counteracts all your negations, and your life will become more blessed and beautiful through the years.
For people who became frustrated with their affirmations, they said their affirmations 100,000 times a day and nothing happened, and they lost interest, they felt disempowered, they felt like victims. They said, that stuff doesn't work. It's because we only had half of the formula. So the feeling is what actually creates, and that's why, to me, it makes tremendous sense. If the feeling is what creates, then you've got to give that field something to work with so it can show you what it is that you're creating. Why not feel what it is that you'd like to experience, so the field can give that back to you, rather than feeling the things that you don't have or you don't want, because that's the blueprint that the field gives back to you as well. It's a very subtle, it's just it's this little subtle shift from into thinking from the outcome rather than thinking from the place of lack and hoping something changes. So the feeling that we're creating is very closely associated with what we call belief. Belief and feeling both occur in the heart. When you have a belief about something, you've got usually really strong feelings about that belief. So you ask the question, is it important to believe? Yes, it is. To the degree that we believe, we are healed. To that degree, when we begin creating those kinds of patterns in our bodies, our heart will send the signals to our brains saying this body is healed. And to meet that, the brain will flood the body with the chemistry that will allow that healing. We've seen this documented medically. So that's inside of our bodies. The same principle now is being documented beyond our bodies. So the effect is not limited to our bodies. The field carries those effects beyond our bodies into our physical world, and in that way, we influence. Again, I'm not going to say the word control or manipulate. We're not imposing our will, but we do influence. We have the ability to influence the outcome of the events in our lives.